Welcome everyone to this episode of Discourse, where today we will be discussing the Dark Age Chronicles, Eve of Darkness, Book 1 by T.L. Bailey. 1717. It was a time of darkness, where stations kept to their own and people struggled to survive. A time where pirates still roamed the seas, slavery was suffered, and ignorance reigned supreme. But there is coming a greater darkness that man can't hope to fight. A darkness that will consume every soul on earth. One young girl named Eve, born with a mark on her hand, outcast and abused, learns that she is the chosen one that must stop the rising evil. She must learn to use powers she never knew she had if she ever hopes to defeat Nyx, the most powerful necromancer ever born.
This isn't your typical, good versus evil, God versus Satan. The genre is fantasy, so we get to experience magic, and there's this Nyx fellow, a necromancer, apparently the most powerful ever born.
Right.
It's a good mix, so you get the fantasy thrown in there. And after this time, we cut into 1717.
Mm-hmm.
It takes place in Virginia, mainly, what was it?
Richmond, Jamestown.
Jamestown. I believe Richmond was one of them.
Right, you're right. Chesapeake Bay. And to be honest, I've never been to the East Coast, so I'm not super familiar with geography and things like that. But I feel like it's a lot of Virginia areas.
Yeah. So here is where we get introduced to Eve, who everyone knows she's a chosen one, except her.
I know, it's so odd. It's like every single person knows who she is and what she's about. And yet, no one ever says anything, and it's because they're in enemy territory, right? Or she is.
Yeah.
She was taken and she was brought up in enemy territory and looked after because she was severely beaten and
by a family member.
Right, her grandfather supposedly, right?
We find out that it's the Alcyon, which are followers of the Azorians, kind of like a cult. They do dark magic, and they're followers of this Nyx fellow.
Right.
And apparently she's being raised by these people also, because they're just evil and they're preparing her for a wedding that she doesn't want. And to her, it's a simple wedding. Her life will change because, as you mentioned, she gets raised and beaten more than the slaves. Anything she does, she either gets whooped, she gets burned, she gets whipped.
Poor thing. She can't do nothing.
So she kind of got used to it.
Yeah, she's kind of like, I'm getting beat again. Can't do nothing around here.
Because she was supposed to be broken, so she doesn't try to unleash her powers, but she just turns into a rebel.
I like that about her, that she wasn't able to be broken. And I also liked that the author let it be known what was happening to the main character, but didn't go into severe gruesome details about the beatings and her being burned, us being there with her while in the midst of it, right? It was alluded to, and we were kind of brought back to the story when it's all said and done, which I appreciated because those moments can be really tense. I've read moments like that in other books, and it's just too much for me. So I like that.
And we do get to experience a whipping, but it's very short, which I assume she will get scarred up, but because of her
special powers, those don't last very long, which is nice. I think that's super cool too. A lot of her abilities were really awesome, or her possible abilities. Yeah, her possible abilities. I like that. That I thought that was cool. And I also just enjoyed how strong she was as a person. She kind of took all the beatings and just lived her life and just, was looking to the future.
As much as she could, at least, because she was followed everywhere and guarded, but she was mostly held hostage by the guards and her family members, or her grandfather and these other people she only knows as his support. She got a letter saying to go meet this Captain Black, that he has answers, or he could help her, I guess, figure out more about her mother, because she's very curious about her mother a lot. Or just one reason for everything in her curiosity is she has visions, either in her dreams or when she touches someone.
Right.
That's the biggest...
I feel power that she has.
Yeah. So physical touch triggers the visions. So she's aware of that, and she got in trouble a lot because of that, so she tries not to do it. Yeah. She sees it as a curse. An interesting thing, which I thought was cool. So the grandfather named her Eve because of the, biblical story, Adam and Eve. Eve was the cause of, like, the downfall. So it was meant to be kind of like a outcast thing, or putting her down. Every time someone spoke her name, they thought about that.
Yeah, I definitely feel like they try to do their best to degrade her, to make her feel less than, to make her feel secluded and isolated as much as possible. And and also with the whippings and the beatings and the burnings, hopefully all those things mixed together would help them in breaking her.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Nope. So off she goes one night to find this Captain Black. And it's strange at first because he's drunk. He's kind of half blind because he's in that moment. So he's like, why did someone send me a Lady of the Night, we'll call her, at this time? I didn't call for one. So he starts like grabbing at her. She's like, what are you doing?
I know. But this also shows like how isolated she's been, right? She's been treated well, as in she's been cared for, and she's seen nice things, and she's had, luxuries and comforts, but she's never like really been around like a drunken sailor man, or sorry, pirate man, who grabbing at her.
Yeah, so she's
just like, oh my God.
So typically you would either run away or fight, but she's kind of like, what's going on? Like, I got this letter. Am I not supposed to be here? Yeah. What is this? But she does push him off. She leaves, but then she finds him again, and
yeah, they end up connecting, and
they talk on even terms, no alcohol involved. And yeah, he ends up giving her a ride. She needed a ride. So they team up, basically. Yeah. And they go off.
For a short while. He takes her back home.
They get to learn more about each other.
Or at least a little bit.
And apparently she reminds him of this woman that he used to love. But moving forward, we get introduced to Matt, which are her childhood friend who becomes a doctor just like his father. So he helps her out.
And he genuinely cares about her and her well-being. And he knows about all the tortures that she's been through. And he knows that she has the mark on her, but he doesn't think she's evil like everybody else does. Like, he believes in her, and he's definitely a huge, huge ally for her. Yeah. Which she seems to have none so far. So he's like her only one.
So far. Moving forward, she leaves again.
She leaves a lot.
She slowly starts to find out about who she is, the history, having these powers. So we then get introduced to Argo, who is a falcon, or he's a spirit in a falcon form, and he is a guardian of, the chosen one, and in general the Centaurians. He's like the guy he's been around for generations. He hasn't died, he's been alive for so long. It's, as mentioned earlier, just the cycle continues, and you could say he's cursed.
Yes, well, he is cursed. He was cursed. Yeah, so that's why he's in that form, and he has to be her guardian.
Until the chosen one saves the world, but hasn't happened yet. Yeah. And he hates his job, but he can't do anything about it.
I love him.
Yeah, this guy's awesome too. He hates his job. He's outspoken, but he has to do what he has to do.
Yeah. I love that throughout this story, it's obviously very dark and serious, and there's like evil afoot, but there's so much comic relief just strewn throughout. So I almost want to say it's like a comedy fantasy, which I mean, I don't know about you, I've never really read too much of that.
No, I'm used to magic and death and sadness.
And maybe a quick little one-liner here and there.
Yeah,
but this is genuinely all the characters have really great sense of humors, and they play off of each other really well. Like, the banter is really interesting.
Yeah, for me, one of my favorites is Captain Black, and I'm gonna read a part of the book from when he first meets Eve.
This is just showing a little bit of the humor.
One sip isn't going to condemn your soul. Besides, even that Jesus fellow had a glass of wine every now and then. Black mused, handing her the canister.
He's like, come on.
He's like, come on.
You're fine.
Because he knew she was raised all extra religious and pretty alcohol. No, I'm going to condemn my soul. We ladies don't do that. And he's like, come on, even that Jesus fellow did this.
I don't know.
And then she did take it, but she was like, that's disgusting. But it did warm me up inside, so thank you. There's a bunch of other characters. There's Roman and Rowan,
right,
who are twin brothers, both abandoned at birth. One was raised in the orphanage with very abusive people in the orphanage, and the other one, Rowan, he gets raised by a family, and he becomes like a scholar, 6'2", blonde, blue eyes. The author is good at describing all these different characters. We meet a Lycan guy who has like jet black hair and muscular jawline. That's what did Eve say?
What? Oh, that he's like. Oh, well, she said like he's nothing like Argo, who's like, you know, she thought looked like Adonis. This guy's like on another level of gorgeous.
Yeah, it's like I never had that tingly feeling before when I met Eddie, man, but this guy. Yeah.
I know. I love that I'm assuming this is going to be the love interest. I'm hoping, because at first I thought maybe it was Matt, but then I was like, well, he kind of has more like true best friend, like brother vibes.
She say he's just a friend, but he doesn't know that.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, maybe. But, yeah, on her part. But, like, now I'm like, ooh! I was waiting for, like, a love interest. I wasn't sure if this book would have, like, any type of romance. And maybe it won't, because this is a series, right? This is a series of 4 books. Yep. Mm-hmm. So there is still the potential of it not being a romance. But here's to me hoping, okay?
I don't know. But talking about that Lycan guy, second favorite, by the way. 2 quotes.
Uh-huh.
Talk about
Second favorite. Who's your favorite? Black?
Black.
Oh, mine's Argo. I think he's so awesome and funny. Yeah. And he's just like bitter old, just like man. He's just like, ugh, I want to get out of this place.
Fuck this to end. I don't care who wins.
I don't care.
All right. So back to Lycan. When he first met Eve.
Oh yeah. He's like, girl, you gorgeous.
But this hellhound attacks Eve, and out of nowhere, this figure comes in and starts fighting with the hellhound, and it's this Lycan guy. Mm. He landed on top of the hellhound, smelling the creature's rancid breath close to his. He ignored it as he sank his fists into the creature's stomach with lightning speed. It roared and bucked, but it was no match for his strength. Pulling back, he ripped out his black heart and watched as his eyes turned from red to black. That is our introduction to Lycan.
I know, I'm like, hey, can't be way cooler than that.
Yeah, and before that moment, these hellhounds were like untouchable, unbeatable, they're too strong.
Right.
This dude just comes out and rips one heart out and tosses it like nothing.
Not for him.
Man.
Ain't nothing gonna take him on. That's right.
Then Eve wakes up because she was knocked out, apparently knocked out cold, but she was listening and watching. She jerked her head further up and saw a brown leather padded shirt underneath the coat, and he, Lycan, had black wavy hair that fell away from his face and seemed to end at his collar and back. However, his face made her breath catch in her throat. His jaw was strong and well defined with high cheekbones. His face was aristocratically honed, and he had the tiniest hint of a dimple in the middle of his chin.
I think that's so cute.
His mouth, although set in a thin line, looked to be perfect. He was gorgeous.
He was gorgeous! Everybody! I love that. I love that part.
Oh, man. Never did she say that to Matt. Or thought about it to Matt.
I know. She's
or
like, wow.
Either of the twins, even the 6-foot scholar, very smart guy. That's beautiful to some people. And nothing until she saw this dude out of nowhere. She forgot about the hellhound.
There's definitely no hellhound in her mind whatsoever. No prophecy, no nothing.
Nope.
No, I actually admire that only because this, for her as a character, it means like, you know, she's not just going to be taken aback by just any cute guy. Like for me, it feels like those types of things are important to her, or like she takes it seriously sort of situation. Like, oh, maybe they're handsome, but it's like whatever. Like this is when it's like true type of love situation. So that's why I'm thinking this is a love interest, but I could be totally wrong.
Who knows? Because even this Lycan guy is just like the Falcon, Argo.
Right. But then also we get a little insight on his point of view too, and he's a little like, oh, I'm excited about this girl. You know, I shouldn't be, but I am. But so that's kind of cool.
We get to learn a little about him.
But not too much.
Not too much. I want to, move on to book 2 because we kind of get a hint that he's been around. The bad guys know him, the good guys know him. Right. But which side is he playing?
Yeah,
we don't know.
He obviously has saved her, so you're kind of like, I really want to read book 2 just so I can figure out where this story is going.
Yeah, a lot of these characters could have like their own
side stories for sure.
Yeah. So it started off with Eve in black, and now we got a whole group come together.
Mm-hmm. And they're on a journey. They're on a mission. Mm-hmm. They're gonna save the world.
And a lot of other cool descriptive information or writing, because we get a feel where the Necromancer nicks darts.
Oh yeah, so they're super awesome. Like the author does an amazing job with world building this whole fantasy world, right? The descriptions are so amazing, like extremely vivid. Honestly, I feel like describing all the evil stuff is just way cooler. I mean, hearing how gorgeous that guy was very nice and pleasant, but all the evil, gruesome stuff is always super cool. That's definitely just the beginning, and there's so much more that's going to be happening in the rest of the book. So I'm super excited to get to those. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Make sure to check out The Dark Age Chronicles, Eve of Darkness, Book 1 by T.L. Bailey.